Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Gloria and thank you so much for clicking on today's video. Today I wanted to go through some uncommon plants that I didn't expect to be easy, but ended up being really easy to care for. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. And yeah, let's just jump right into today's video. Okay, so I have a bunch of plants here. It kind of varies from philodendrons to other aroids to Hoyas, so kind of touching on a whole bunch of different plants, but these are generally the plants that I tend to keep a lot in my collection. So I wanted to share them with you guys so that you guys know these are easy and you guys can go out and buy them yourself. Okay, so first off, I'll start off with the biggest plant of all, which is this bad boy, which is my Syngonium chiapense. And this one is honestly humongous. As you can see, there's so many leaves. They're all like directional because it all faces one side towards the light, which I don't really mind because this is just the back side, which obviously is a little bit bare, but it's okay because this is the good side. And this is the easiest plant I have ever had in terms of a Syngonium, because other Syngoniums are not as easy, like the Wendlandii or Rayi, and sometimes even the Albo could be a little bit tricky, but the chiapense is honestly the best. It has really cool texture leaves, if you guys can tell. Like, it's like super kind of soft but not like velvety, so very hard to explain. You have to have one in person to really kind of appreciate the beauty of this plant. But I really like this one, and I think I have nothing to complain about this one, except that I probably need to put it on a moss pole soon so that it can just grow up and climb up the moss pole. I do want to show you guys the roots because they are growing out of the drainage holes at the bottom. So just look at that. There's so many roots and it's constantly just putting out new roots, putting out new leaves, and it doesn't really ask for much. It's not in a super bright location either, and it's still putting out some pretty decently sized leaves. I mean, they are a little bit smaller compared to the original leaves, but that's because it is still a cutting. It's not a top cutting, so it was a bottom cutting and it had to grow a new growth point before putting out new leaves. And usually when these leaves come out, they are a little bit smaller, but over time it does, you know, get pretty big. So I'm not too concerned about this. It also doesn't care about humidity, it doesn't care about lighting, and because I have it in leca, it's pretty easy in terms of watering. So the best, really like this plant. Next up, I do want to show you guys a philodendron, and this one probably is my easiest philodendron that I have in my collection in terms of an uncommon kind of like rare variety, and this is the Philodendron pastazanum. So this one I would say is so much easier than the Gloriosum, which I find there are quite a bit of like similarities between the two. This one is really pillowy and fluffy and just like absolutely adorable. I love it so much. It's the perfect heart-shaped leaf, and I already have another leaf like about to come out. Just look at that, it's literally about to pop, and this is the old leaf that it came with, so it looks a little like beat up because of shipping. Ugh, bless me, always sneezing in the morning. I'm filming a lot earlier than I normally do. Anyway, so this is the pastazanum. It rooted so easily, it didn't have any trouble acclimating to my environment and even transferring to the leca, because I originally rooted this in moss, and when I transferred from moss to leca, it was like no trouble at all. And even the roots are constantly growing out of the drainage holes. Look at that, they're really pink too, which is super cute. It kind of reminds me of like philodendron pink princess roots, which are also really pink. I just really enjoy this philodendron, and I can't wait for this new leaf to come out. I really want to see if it's going to be bigger than this current leaf, because I really hope so. I mean, this one is still pretty big. A little head test. The only thing about this one that I don't particularly like is that it's a crawling philodendron, so it does need kind of more horizontal space in terms of like growing and it getting bigger. But if it were to be a climbing philodendron, you could just stick it up on a moss pole and you just need vertical space, which is a lot easier to have as opposed to filling your entire shelf with like a really wide but shallow pot. But that's the only thing. So both the pastazanum and the Gloriosum, they're crawling philodendrons. I would still say get this if you really like the foliage, the ease of care, and just absolute beauty. Okay, next up I want to talk about this Hoya, which is my Hoya Vitilinoides. It's a little bit hard to say, but I think I got that right. So these are the new leaves, and honestly, I have had no trouble with this Hoya. Despite it being like just so extravagant looking, the leaves have so much veining, so much like beauty to it, and I just can't get enough of this Hoya. I really thought this would be a little bit of a more difficult and not beginner friendly Hoya, but I was definitely proven wrong. It roots so well. There's literally so many roots. It didn't have any trouble acclimating to the leca, and I think it's just been really easy. I need to refill the water reservoir because it's quite empty. I think that in the span of, I don't know, a few months, it grew 3 giant leaves for me. I'm not mad about it. So this is probably my fastest growing Hoya. That's an uncommon Hoya versus, you know, can't really compare it to something like a Carnosa or Pubicalix because those grow really, really quickly. But for a big leaf Hoya, this one grew so fast and I couldn't be happier, honestly. I did not expect this to be so easy, but it ended up being super, super easy. Next up, I want to talk about my Philodendron Varicosum. So this is a velvet leaf philodendron, and it's still the juvenile form, so it doesn't have very obvious characteristics of a verrucosum, but this is how it's looking like. These are the new leaves that came in my care, and it looks really nice, honestly. It gives me like El Choco vibes, but like this was the leaf it came with. Obviously looks a little beat up and about to die. It's like yellowing a little bit, and this was the first leaf that came out of my care, which was a little bit tiny, and that's okay, but the newer leaves have come out bigger, so it's just a matter of time. And even this leaf is about to pop, so I'm just patiently waiting for this, and I think this has honestly given me not much trouble. It took a little bit longer than my pastazanum to root, but it's adjusted really well to the leca now, and I'm not too concerned about it. It looks really, really nice. It grows fast. It doesn't really ask for much. Over time, I think when it's not so juvenile like this little baby, it should have petioles that are a little bit fuzzy and hairy, kind of like a squamiferum. But for now, I think the juvenile forms don't really have much fur, hair, whatever. The backs are a little bit red, which is also a little bit hard to see because I think more of the newer leaves come out with like the red backs, but over time it fades a little bit. But there's a little bit of red there. I really, really like this plant. It's been so much easier than something like my Gloriosum, my Melanochrysum. Those velvet heartleaf philodendrons are just a lot more tricky compared to the Varicosum for me. If you disagree, comment down below so I know, because I think a lot of people think Gloriosums are really easy, but maybe because mine was hit with thrips, it definitely was not easy, and it was a very kind of roller coaster of a ride for me to take care of this one. Let's move on to the last plant on the list, which is my Philodendron White Princess. I know you guys have seen me talk about this plant so many times, and it's because it's honestly one of my favorites. It has the most beautiful variegation. It's so easy, and it never really causes me any trouble, honestly. So it has pink stems, which I know some other people's White Princess don't have pink stems, but mine does, and I think it looks extra cool that way. The most easy variegated plant I've ever had. So if you were to compare this to like a Thai constellation or a Monstera alboborsigiana, those are much more finicky. They're very prone to root rot, and they like have yellow leaves, but this little baby honestly has done nothing but grow for me. So the only time it really gave me a little bit of trouble was when I was transferring this from soil to leca. That was when it threw a huge tantrum, but otherwise, once it acclimated to the leca, it's been totally fine, and it grew out some beautiful leaves. This was its most recent leaf, which is very nicely variegated, and the leaf before that, like, look at that. It just has like a half moon leaf, so I honestly can't complain. It's very easy. All of these plants have been really, really easy, and I'm so thankful that I have these in my collection, especially because I honestly thought these would be very difficult plants to care for, and it's always nice to be pleasantly surprised. Comment down below if you guys want me to do something like the opposite, where these are plants that I thought would be really easy, but it ended up being super, super difficult to care for, very finicky. There's been a lot of problems that came up. I really enjoyed doing this video because I got to talk about a lot of the plants that I really, really love, and these have been nothing but easy for me. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and give this video a thumbs up if you did, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.